Bismillah, Assalaamu alaikum. It's me, Zahida, the big sister that you didn't have, the big sister that's going to be sharing with you advice that I wish that I had gotten all those years ago, subhanAllah. And this is advice that I've gained from 41 years of living, 19 years of marriage, alhamdulillah, raising 2 children, raising a business. So business feels like a child sometimes, subhanAllah, for over 10 years and having had businesses before that as well. And facilitating thousands of clients across the globe for the past 10 plus years, alhamdulillah. So I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new here, this is a series that I started here on YouTube, and there's plenty of great information, inshallah, for you. May Allah benefit you, use it to benefit you. Okay. So, a lot has been going on, subhanAllah. And before I get into today's video, which I pray that is very valuable to you, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. Someone needs to say it. And I've had a lot going on. And I just want to tell you, like a couple of videos ago, I shared about how to make your unreasonable results real. And that exact 4-step phase process that I took you through in that video, I am using it now. I am always using it, especially when I take on goals that feel very big. And don't sleep on that video, okay? Don't sleep on that voice note. I also want to tell you that really, really leverage whatever barakah you can in your life. As Muslims, we are so privileged to have access to literal cheat codes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's systems of abundance. That's what barakah is. It's a cheat code for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's systems of abundance to help it make work for you, not just for your dunya, but your akhirah as well. So when I'm pursuing those unreasonable results, one of the first things I look at is how can I bring in more barakah in what I am doing? Because my time alone and my effort alone and my striving alone is never going to be enough. I always need Allah. I always need His abundance, His barakah, His blessings infused into everything that I'm doing. May He grant it to you and to me. And so use those systems of abundance. I actually have something called a barakah activation playbook. It is free. I'll leave it in the link description box as well for you in case you want to use that, inshallah. Now, I had someone reach out to me with a question, and truly I was concerned about the question. And she said that she downloaded my free guide on what questions to ask before marriage. I'll also leave that in the description box, inshallah, if you want to get that as well. She downloaded it and she messaged me to say that it was so helpful, it was so comprehensive, she loves the level of questions, but her mother would never allow her to ask those questions. Her mother would never allow her to ask more than surface level questions. In fact, her parents didn't want her to engage, in the sense that one meeting and that's it. You can't make any inquiries. You can't find out anything. And I find this mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And lo and behold, today, I'm reciting Surah Al-Qasas, right? And it's the story of Musa alayhi salam. It's such a beautiful surah. Please go and read it. Read the English translation of it if Arab, you don't understand the Arabic. In Surah Al-Qasas, there's a part where Musa alayhi salam has left Egypt with nothing. He's on his own. He doesn't know what his next move is. He finds this water well. He sits there and waits, and he finds these 2 women are trying to get water from the well. They tell him their situation. He helps them out, and he goes and patiently waits again. The women leave. They come back, and they tell him that their father, who's an old man, wants to see him. So already we know that this is an old man. He's got experience. He's got wisdom, right? And when he meets the old man, when he meets the father, they describe him as sheikhun kabirun, like an old sheikh, an old man. When Musa alayhi salam meets the father, who would go on to become his father-in-law, what do you think Musa alayhi salam was told by this future father-in-law of his? He was told, I will marry one of my daughters to you, but first I want you to work for me for 8 years. And if you do 10 years, it'll be better for you, but I don't want to put difficulty on you. So it's your choice. And I just thought, subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us something powerful, because remember, when something is in the Quran, when it's specifically mentioned in the Quran, it's not by accident. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you didn't notice, He is very strategic and deliberate about what He places in the Quran. Through His ultimate hikmah, He knows why He put every single ayah. There is no ayah that is not there for a specific purpose. Every single ayah plays a role. It has a purpose. So this is going to link into this question that I had about asking questions. Think a little bit. Why would Allah mention this specifically? There's so many things that could have been mentioned. I mean, the story of Musa alayhi salam is vast, right? Out of all his life situations, why mention this? Why not just say, well, he worked for his father-in-law, or he got married? Why even talk about the work part of it? Why even mention that the Shaykhun Kabirun, right, asked for this from Musa alayhi salam before he married him to his daughters? Think about it, because in that time, he gets to see the true akhlaq, the true nature of Musa alayhi salam. He gets to mentor him. He gets to teach him. He gets to teach him about what it means to be a good abd, a good person even. Not to say that Musa alayhi salam wasn't already a good person. We know in the few ayah before that, Allah has already mentioned that He gave Musa alayhi salam hikmah. He gave him ilm, right? He blessed him with knowledge. He blessed him with wisdom. And in the other ayah previous to just a few ayah before this one where the father-in-law says these things, it's mentioned that Musa alayhi salam goes out of his way to help the daughters. The father heard about this, and that's why he called Musa alayhi salam. So he already knows Musa alayhi salam is a good person. He has good akhlaq, and yet he still offers this. Now, this is interesting to me, right? Because if you're saying don't find out too much about a person before you get married, and please don't twist my words. I'm not saying you should date someone and do haram things, but within the context of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws, you should and are allowed to inquire about the person that you're marrying. So I want to ask you a question here. What purpose were you created for? Were you created to get married? No, you were created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And marriage is one of the ways that you worship Him. But if you are going to go against the adab of the deen in terms of seeking marriage and doing marriage, then are you doing it for Allah or are you doing it for the culture? Because we have this culture of rushing into marriage because I don't want to get left behind. I don't want people to think that I'm not good enough to be chosen, that I'm not worthy of marriage. My parents are putting pressure on me. In that case, you're doing marriage for your own ego, for your own nafs. You're doing marriage for your culture. You're doing marriage so that people will say that you're a good person. But if you're doing marriage for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you will follow the adab of how to seek a marriage partner, how to engage in the process of vetting someone and seeing whether they are a suitable candidate for marriage. Because did you know that ghiba is completely, it's a huge sin in Islam, right? The only time where you're allowed to disclose information on someone that would normally be categorized as ghiba are situations where you're seeking someone in marriage. So it is actually your job, your parents' job, to go out and find out from other people, hey, what is the akhlaq of this person? How are they? What can you tell me about them? What is their deen like? What type of person are they? You're supposed to make these inquiries. Before you even perform your istikhara, you are supposed to make these inquiries. And the fact that we are skipping this and that your parents are telling you to skip this is saying that culture is being put before deen. And when culture is put before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's system, there's no barakah. And then you're not doing it for Allah. You cannot say I'm doing something for Allah and then do it in a way that's not in alignment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's advice, with His system, right? I can't say I'm doing something for the pleasure of Allah, but then do it in a way that is not pleasing to Allah. Right? The process matters as much as the end goal. Okay? You cannot say, oh, I want to make lots of money and give to the poor people, and you engage in riba and you steal from people in order to do that. You can't do that, right? The ends doesn't justify the means. What's very interesting is that Khadija radiallahu anhu did something similar. Not for the same frame of time. But Khadija radiallahu anha had so much wisdom. When she was looking to see if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be a good husband, she actually asked him to engage in some business for her, and she sent one of her servants to observe him, to help him, but to observe him. And she said, go have a look, go see what he's like. Because when you travel with someone, because they had to travel for the business, when you travel for someone and when you engage in business with them, you actually find out what they really like. Correct? Yes, right? Traveling with someone, you get to know all sides of them, for better or worse, subhanAllah. And doing business with them, you see all kinds of sides of people when money is involved. And at the end of the trip, she inquired, Khadija radiallahu anha inquired from the servant what happened. And the servant came and reported back that this man is exceptional, subhanAllah. This man is fair, and he conducts himself so well, he's got such good akhlaq. And that was one of the criteria that she used to make her decision about whether or not to marry Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Are you starting to see that your culture may be telling you that you shouldn't inquire too much, you shouldn't ask too many questions, but what is your deen telling you? What is your deen telling you? And are you following your culture, or are you following your deen? Because if you follow your culture, there's always going to be problems. But if you follow your deen, again, the barakah comes it. The other thing I want to tell you, because you may say, okay, but Zaida, are you telling me to disobey my parents? Are you telling me that I can't listen to my parents? Well, what I am telling you is that there is no obedience to the creation that goes against the obedience of the Creator. If your parents are telling you to do something that goes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or telling you not to do something when it is an injunction from Allah, then yes, you can and should disobey them. That doesn't mean you should disrespect them. You should follow the sunnah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Speak to them kindly, speak to them respectfully, but follow the law of Allah, right? And you may think that's controversial, but even if you are thinking that, that's kind of telling us that we really need to reassess. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow me to do that. May He allow me to also put deen before culture as well, right? Because there's a lot of unlearning to do. So another thing that you need to be, so some of you might say, okay, well, Zahida, if Musa alayhi salam's father-in-law said 8 to 10 years, do you want me to wait 8 to 10 years before I vet someone? Well, not necessarily. It's less about the amount of time and more about the process that you engage in. I mean, Musa alayhi salam pretty much came out of nowhere. They didn't know anything about him besides that interaction at the water well. They didn't know his family, they didn't know his lineage, they didn't know anything about him. In this day and age, you don't need to go far. You can inquire, you can find out. The person that you're considering for marriage may have a business partner, may have people that they've dealt with. There are people around, okay, in the community. If you tap into your networks, there are people who, not everyone may necessarily tell you the truth, but there will be someone that you can find that may tell you the truth about things. And so it's actually your right. It is your right to go and find out. And if your parents are preventing you from utilizing that right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, your parents are wrong. Your parents are then doing something from oppression. And it's not okay. The other thing is, in terms of preparation of marriage, because here's the thing, right? How can you go into a contract with someone? Because nikah is a contract. It's a binding contract for the dunya, and it's a divine contract. It's either going to stand for you or against you in the akhirah, depending on how you went about it. May Allah make it stand for us, and may Allah grant us good spouses and make us good spouses. But you need to understand what you're entering into, what your rights are, what the other party's rights are, what your husband/wife's rights are, how you're going to fulfill them. Do I have any gaps? This doesn't mean that you need to be a perfect human being. Some things about marriage, you're only going to learn in the marriage. But there's certainly basic level foundation that you can prepare with. In terms of that guide that I offered you guys for free, when you're looking at those questions to ask a potential spouse, ask yourself those questions. Delve into yourself. Look at what gaps you have so that you're at least aware of them, and then create a game plan to fill the gap. Even if you are not able to fill all the gaps before you get married, take some accountability, take some responsibility and say, well, during the marriage, these are the ways, these are the tools I'm going to seek. This is the mentorship, coaching, programs, or I'm going to sign up for Islamic sciences courses. I'm going to find out all of these things. I'm going to work on myself. If I have emotional regulation issues, I'm going to work on that. Have a plan. Don't just leave it up to chance and hope for the best. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help and His guidance, and then seek ways. Seek means take that action towards filling those gaps. Another thing, I was listening to a conversation that I was part of, and it just blew my mind, subhanAllah, how misunderstood Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws are in terms of divorce as well. Now you may say, Zaida, we're talking about marriage, why are you talking about divorce? Well, how can you go into a contract if you don't understand all aspects of it? Nobody of sound mind goes into a marriage hoping that they're going to get divorced. No one. But the fact of the matter is that things happen. And if you need to know both sides of the coin. If you are willing to take the responsibility of marriage, you need to understand what divorce is about. Especially if you are a man. Because as a man, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually given you the responsibility and the right, because with every right comes a responsibility. He's given you the right for talaq. He's given you the right to give divorce. And if you don't know what the responsibility is that comes with that right, you may do something that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You may cause oppression of the one you have that right over. Meaning, if you don't know what the terms of talaq are and how talaq works, and what's okay and what's not okay, and how all of it works, you may, at the beginning of your marriage as a man, think, oh, I'm never ever going to get divorced. Sure, but you still, if you're entering into the contract of marriage, it's just like if you enter a shopping mall. Have you ever seen those disclaimers saying that, you can't do this, you can't do that? And you say, well, I never do those things, but you still need to be aware of it. Any contract that you enter into, you need to be aware of what happens when the contract, just in case the contract ends, because you never know, right? You never know what Allah has in store for you. And if you don't know, you could end up doing zulm on somebody else in that contract. So as a man, you need to know what the conditions of talaq are, how you go about it, what is okay, what is not okay, because there's a whole system that Allah has put into place. It's very interesting to me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't go into huge detail about marriage in the Quran, but He goes into very, very specific detail about divorce. And I find it so sad that we have stigmatized divorce so much that culturally we don't even learn about the right and wrongs and the do's and don'ts of divorce, right? Because divorce, it's a very difficult process, but it is a part of life sometimes. It's going to happen. Like I said, no one wants to get divorced. No one takes it lightly, but it could happen. And it's a normal part of life. The Sahaba used to get divorced. And part of that is, if you are an abd of Allah, you need to understand the conditions of that ibadah in every phase of life. In marriage, you need to know, how am I going to serve Allah through this marriage? How am I going to be a good abd of Allah, a good slave of Allah through this marriage? If the situation arises where divorce happens, how am I going to be a good abd of Allah? How am I going to do ibadah in the case of doing divorce in a manner that is pleasing to my Lord? Not committing oppression on anyone. So find out the fiqh and the conditions of marriage and divorce, and what the rights and what the obligations and what the responsibilities are. These are all part of the way that you prepare for marriage. And it's wild to me that people are constantly saying, get married, get married, get married. But there's little to no advice to people saying, get prepared for the responsibility of marriage. And some people don't like to hear this, but this is the truth of it. I'll stand by it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create khair from it. So I hope this has been helpful to you. The bigger picture here is, culture is great. There's nothing wrong with cultural traditions. But when culture opposes your deen, that's when it becomes problematic. When you have to choose between culture and deen, choose deen. You will always win in your dunya and akhirah. And it may mean in the short term, you make some people unhappy with you. You make some people angry with you. That's okay. You're not doing it to make them angry. You're doing it because you're choosing the pleasure of Allah. You're choosing to please Allah over pleasing somebody else, even if that somebody else is your parent. Because yes, sometimes pleasing Allah will mean displeasing your parents. In situations like this is what it means. May Allah make it easy for all of you. I'm sending you all so much love and du'as. May Allah grant you khair. Remember me in your special du'as. Assalaamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.